go full. And up in
Okay.
the upper right-hand corner, the box that will make it full screen. Now, upper right-hand corner, keep going up, 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 up,
Oh,
up,
they
up,
already do
up,
that,
up.
whatever.
There you go.
Okay,
All right, we're
all right,
good.
let's go for it. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It is 2:03 PM. This is the Town Real Estate Assessment Committee. Let me just sort of, as a preliminary matter, this is John Brescher, the chair of the Town Real Estate Assessments Committee. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Nat Lowell,
Here.
Tom Barada,
Here.
Lee Saperstein,
Here,
awesome. Staff, Tracy McDonald,
Here.
awesome. And anticipated speakers, that's Arthur Reed.
I'm here.
Thank you, Arthur. Okay, so we are doing this as a sort of hybrid and in-person meeting. So I just have to go over a few things quickly. This open meeting, the Town Real Estate Assessment Committee, is being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021. This meeting will feature public comment. We are doing this meeting via video conference on the Zoom app and in person. All the meeting materials are available on the town's website. We're going to go, as we go through the agenda, we're going to go, I'll introduce each speaker, and then I'll go down the line of members, inviting each provide any comment, questions, etc. All members on Zoom, please ensure that this is your real name, and so as not to get Zoom bombed. And what we'll do is every vote will be via roll call vote still, because we're partially on Zoom. Okay, all right, let's go into, we'll start the agenda. So,
John,
Yes,
just a question. We're four, is there a fifth member?
there is not. So we are, this is it for us. I
Okay.
believe that the committee appointments are being advertised, and hopefully we'll get a fifth member
Okay.
come June or July,
Then,
but this is us.
in a parliamentary sense, the quorum is still three,
Correct,
but we're good.
for now. So first thing, call to order. Secondly, may I have an approval of the agenda as written? Thank you. Motion is
Second.
made and second. Here, any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll still do roll call vote. Nat Lowell.
Aye.
Tom Barada. Lee Saperstein.
Aye.
John Brescher. Aye. Next item on the agenda is the public comment. We are featuring public comment, so if there is anybody from the public wishing to speak on matters not on the agenda, please do so. We got anybody on Zoom, Tracy?
No, we don't see.
Awesome. Okay, moving on. Real estate matters. Tracy, do you want to start with A, with a 6R and 8 Skyline?
Yep, so
Let's
we
do it.
are, I was hoping to share my screen and I hope everybody will see the plan, number 2024-8, which is a taking by the town for, well, by the county commissioners for easements for, I don't know, Arthur, you're gonna have to help me out here. It's a
See, I
shame.
wonder if you could get closer to the microphone. I'm really having a hard time hearing you.
Oh, sure. So it's a taking of the paper streets for Dearborn Street, Oniska Avenue, Mycommon Avenue, Monomoy Avenue, Massasoit Avenue, and Central Avenue and Hawthorne Street and Irving Street, which are all within the layout of 8 Skyline Drive and 6R Skyline Drive, together with easements A and B shown on the plan, which is plan number 2024-8. And this is pursuant to a vote at the 2011 annual town meeting for Article 100.
Thank you, Tracy.
Let me give a little bit of background on this situation. I think it would be helpful to everybody. This is the Engelhard property, and it has these paper streets crisscrossing it, old Surfside paper streets. And I've had a lot of conversation with Andrew about this over the years. The situation here is that these paper streets are all shown within the boundaries of the property that Miss Engelhard owns. And in the light of that, Andrew's suggestion, and in fact his recommendation, is that these be easement takings. In other words, that the town will take all easement rights in this in order to eliminate those across the property. And the DPW has been working with us on this for several years, going back to a meeting that I had with Andrew and Rob McNeil back about 5 years ago, in which the DPW wants to use an area at the northern end of this property as a underground retention basin for the overflow on Lover's Lane. As you know, you basically have a lake at the intersection of Lover's Lane and Dave Kim, and there's a real hydraulic problem through the area, and they've developed a plan to have a drain come through the Johnson property on Lover's Lane and empty into the easement area that will be within the northern corner of the Engelhard property. I don't know if you have a plan of the property to see how this lays out, but it comes to a narrow point up at the north, and that's the area that will be involved. We checked it out, determined that granting that easement would not have any adverse effect upon any future development, of which none is planned at the present time, of the Engelhard property, and that this the release of the easement rights in the streets would be in exchange for the granting of the easement in the northern part of the property by my client to the town to enable the drainage to be corrected.
So Arthur, thank you, Arthur. Are those, just quickly, do we anticipate those easements or the town releasing the rights and the easement being signed simultaneously?
Yeah, the idea is that this would all be done as, part of the same transaction.
Great.
Sort of like the ones where we do the waterfront properties with various rights at the same time. In exchange, therefore, you have the one big beach easement being granted instead of any monetary consideration.
Cool. Thank you, Arthur. Any committee members have any comments, questions?
Just a quick question, Mr. Chairman. Arthur, does this have to do with any, the improvements on Lovers so that we don't lose any ability to have drainage issues solved before they even happen? Is that helping in any of that, or is this not have nothing to do with it? Just curious.
Matt, for the first time in my life, I'm having a hard time hearing you. You might want to get closer too.
The owl. So is this going to help us with the construction and drainage of Lovers?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Perfect.
That's what
all
it's for.
That's
That's what it's for.
Because that's a very low area where the Johnson's houses are.
Yeah.
It's like when you go into their driveway, you're like, you go down quite a bit there. So
Yeah, my understanding is it'll all be collected out in, and obviously the DPW can give you more information on it, but it'll be collected outside and then underground piped under the Johnson property into our property, and then within our property up to the corner where the discharge is to take place.
they're probably going to be putting some leach pits or some infiltrators.
Actually, I can answer that question because I've been in on the construction meetings. They have these
Tracy, speak up.
very interesting catch basins that
Yeah.
are going to be located in that triangle, and very kind of unique,
Okay. Perfect.
fascinating presentation.
Yeah, you see that stuff coming over, you don't know what it is unless you know what it is coming on the boat. Okay.
Yeah.
Chair.
Yes, Mr. Saperstein.
Oh, it's all right. This professor can make himself heard anywhere. Are you okay?
sure
Arthur? Can you
can.
hear me?
I can hear you loud and clearly.
Thank you, sir. This action is for a taking. Is there a what happens next? It would be conveyed, it would be conveyed to the abutter?
The way it's done in the case of an easement, in my experience, is that the town makes a taking by eminent domain of all easement rights that would exist in the street. And then I forget exactly what document goes on after that, but it's been done before.
Uh,
I don't know, Tracy, you obviously haven't run into one as yet, but Andrew is up on it, and you probably can get the particulars from him.
I can add some flavor to that. It's generally a release of easement rights that happens.
Yeah.
And it's the town releases their easement rights for $1 since, and that's been
Yeah.
our policy since the Engleharts have been paying taxes on these roads. We affectionately refer to these as the ghost streets.
So I was just gonna
Yep.
ask you that earlier, when came up with
Yep.
levels, these ghost streets.
This would be a ghost street. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else from any other committee members? Anything else, Mr. Reed?
That's fine.
Okay, so I'm assuming that the select board is asking us to, sort of recommend that the property be taken.
How do you make motions for these? Do you do accept, endorse, approve, recommend?
Recommend is generally
Sounds
the,
like it,
because ultimately it
They
falls on the
have to
select
do it.
board.
It's the recommendation.
Exactly. So I would say the motion that we'd be looking for if someone wants to entertain a motion would be that we are recommending the order of taking of the paper streets of 6R and 8 Skyline Drive, the taking of the easement rights of 6R and 8 Skyline Drive.
Make that motion.
Okay, motion's been made by Mr. Lowell. Is there a second? All right, Mr. Barata has seconded.
I want to be absolutely clear. It's for real estate acquisition of the following portions of paper streets, together being shown as easements A and B. So is it the street or is it the property or the easement that is defined by this recommendation?
I believe that it is the easement area that's being defined by the recommendation.
Okay,
Because the streets can follow through to other properties, so it's just the easement area of this, basically on the Engelhart property.
okay. So just to be clear,
Yep.
we're not asking for a taking of paper streets. We're asking to take only the easements, defined as A and B.
I think that's right, Arthur. If you think I'm
Yeah,
mistaken,
no, that's exactly right. I mean, it could be done either way, but in the light of the fact that these have been not shown on the existing plans of record, I think the practice has been fairly consistently for it to be handled this way by simply taking the easements. I mean, I have no problem with it being done either way, but this is the easy way, and it's the way that it's been done in the past.
yeah, I was gonna say historically it's just been the easement rights
You're right.
for a host of reasons.
Thank you.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Nat Lowell. Tom Barata. Lee Saperstein.
Aye.
And the chair, John Brescher, votes aye as well. All right.
Thank you.
Cool. Moving on, the matters B and C on our agenda are continued, so I'm not going to get into those at this time. And so next up, Tracy, is D for registered land. How did we do this one?
The brilliant Arthur.
Go
Reed.
on.
I'll be talking to you about that in the
Please.
after we get rid of this one.
Please, please, please. So please, either Tracy or Arthur, if you want to start on what's going on with on Sandwich Road, that would be great.
Arthur, do you want to talk or do you want me to?
Well, I'm happy to. I'm
You can
always
go
happy
for
to
it.
talk. The Ryder family has been working on this situation with me for quite some years, as well as with the planning staff. They divided their property. The property was rezoned at the town meeting in, I think, 2021. And this parcel was divided. The parcel that's owned now by one in two lots, one by Brian Ryder and the other by Kevin Ryder, conveyed to them by their mother. And meanwhile, the taking of the land in Sandwich Road had been made some time back. And when we filed the plan with the land court, we were able to have the land court issue a certificate of title to the town for the land in the street. So the town now has the land in the street, and this is now the disposition. As I say, the property has been divided into two lots, one with being owned by Brian and the other being owned by Kevin, having nothing to do with the yard sale. It was subdividable anyway as a result of the zoning change. And now we're adding the land in the street to each of the brothers' respective lots in a conventional yard sale situation.
Okay. I will ask you offline how you managed to get that done. Well
Probably
done.
tell you about it in a few minutes, but that's okay.
Well done. Okay, any questions from any committee members on this? And let me, before I get into this, Rob Ranney did give us valuations, and he has a price factor of $3.60 per square foot, which would make lot 169 $10,252.80, and lot 170 $7,423.20.
Yeah, I've seen those figures. Actually, Vicky Marsh has already provided me with draft closing documents on this, and those are the figures that are contained in that.
And none of the other, are we extinguishing the other 5 at some point, or is that gonna be, is that I haven't, know if there's any access back there for other properties, or is that sort of the other side or going away?
I didn't understand. I couldn't hear the question.
Sorry. Arthur, is the other half of Sandwich Road, gonna have, be taken, eventually sold off to the other abutters? Is it not used for access now?
For clarification, that the plans calls them parcel B and parcel C.
Right, I see that. I'm looking at it. I just, he probably knew what I meant. So parcel B, parcel C, Arthur, are those gonna eventually be disposed of in a future time?
That's up to that owner to bring something forward with the town.
Okay, so
and
this was
no,
a
that-
40,
that-
this was a 40-foot, right?
Yeah, and none of it has been used for a driveway or for any purpose. We haven't been in any contact with the owner on the other side of the street, and
What's a 30? Okay,
presumably they can proceed when they're ready
Yeah.
to do so. Yeah, I think it's a 30-foot street.
all right.
Arthur, I'm looking at the plan, at the land court plan, and I appreciate, it was originally endorsed in 2021. Was there an access over this? I see a dashed line going through this, and what I'm getting at is, are any driveway or access rights, driveway or access easements, retained or granted as part of?
Where's the dashed line that you see, John?
Let's see. Oh, gosh.
Arthur, it runs right through the longitudinal length of both 169 and 170.
I see what you mean. I never noticed that before.
I mean, that could end up being a taxed driveway at some point,
Yeah.
for any future development that they don't want to use Sandwich
So,
Road.
I mean,
But nobody, it's within the parcels that the riders would have, and nobody else is using it. As you can see, there are no spurs into the lots on the other side of the road.
So what was it? I mean, from what I can tell, it looked like a way, do people use Chatham to get to Sandwich Road? I mean, is this a practical cut through, or is it? Yeah, just come the other way? Okay.
This is all wood.
Yeah, I don't think anybody uses it.
Yeah,
I mean, the fear, as you might imagine, is that we don't want to do this taking and disposition and then have somebody come out of the woodwork and say, oh, and by the way, why do I no longer have rights in these two portions?
One thing I'd like to say in regard to these meetings is that we have this wonderful GIS website. And part of the package should be the GIS aerial so that we all can see it, but if you look at the aerial for the GIS, you can see that they come in by where the sewer pump is on Monomoy, and it loops around that way and goes to those houses and it stops.
On the other end, yeah.
From the other end.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I looked at that right away for access and stuff,
Yeah.
and there's no trails or anything out there, so it's not like anything that needs public
If I
attention.
had to guess, and it would be a guess, it's a fence. This is a single line, not a double line.
That's not a bad guess.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments from any committee members on this? Anything else you'd like to add, Arthur?
No, unless you have any other questions.
Okay. In that case, what's before us would be to recommend disposing of lot 169, lot 70 per Rob's pricing, which is $10,252.80 for lot 169 and $7,423.20 for lot 170, which is based on the neighborhood price factor of $3.60 per square foot.
Make that motion.
Okay, motion has been made by Mr. Lowell. Is there a second on the motion?
Sure.
Okay, Lee has seconded the motion. Any further discussion on the motion? Okay, hearing none, we'll do roll call vote. Nat Lowell,
Aye.
Tom Barata,
Aye.
Lee Saperstein.
Aye.
Chair John Brescher votes aye as well. Okay,
Thank you.
cool. Thank you. Okay, next up on the agenda. Oh boy, here we go. Review react role in creating a criteria and priority tracking database with schedule follow-up for owners for the backlog of yard sale transactions and discuss possible solutions. Well,
Well, I will
have
start.
at it,
I can start if you'll allow me, Chair. Russia.
please.
So there are some existing typed up guidelines that I think have sort of gotten lost in the various people who have had this position. And
Yep.
so, because when I read through them, they look a little bit outdated because they talk about the procurement, which was the original form that we were disposing of these parcels. And so they need to be amended, and Libby did tell me that Ken Bogrand, who formerly had this position, had been working on it, but I've been unable to find that document as of yet. But we need to create, or improve upon these guidelines, which I did not distribute. But they do need some amending. And then I have a intern for the summer who will specifically work on creating a database of all the backlog for me. And we'll be able to sort it hopefully within this criteria to begin to work through the backlog. So that's the goal.
And Tracy, this is just for citizen petitions, correct? So if planning decides to do a taking and disposition, that's on them. This is for if Joe
Correct.
homeowner says, hey, I want to be able to, I've got a paper street next to me, I want to petition, I want to file a town meeting warrant article in order to do an acquisition disposition. You can say, great, here are the guidelines, go
And
get your
then we're creating
signatures.
a database of
The
everything.
database will be everything.
Everything that's been approved at town meeting for taking.
Either
disposition,
taking by the town or
Or
taking
ta-
by a
Or
citizen.
that any lawyer has come and said, we did the taking, or we're in the process and here's where we stand. Here's our information.
Right. So
That
a
was
lot of
correct.
these are held up in land court.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why I say brilliantly, Arthur was able
Yeah.
to get this former
Agreed.
matter through, because there are some really problematic ones, particularly in Mattakit, that are affecting the erosion and a lot of other things going on.
So, go ahead, no, you go ahead.
As part of this database, are we gonna assign it or use the tracking for the municipal billing for the lawyers and all the consultants so that we can track all the hours and time? Because my big thing's always been a token $1,200 closing cost does not cover anything compared to what we get out of it.
Right, so there's some cost variation when it's citizen article
Yep.
forward, they pay for the plans and,
No, correct,
all that.
correct.
um.
But we still, the town lawyer still has to do it. Vicky has to go through it. You're
that's
going
all
through it.
Supposed to be absorbed within the settlement costs. But then we're also tracking the value of the parcel going back into the tax roll. So that's gonna be another objective of the database, is to figure out how much square foot we've sold within the program and how much cost we've,
How much income we've made.
how much we've received, and then further to that, what's the value of that going into the tax roll?
Yeah. That's what I kind of thought you were talking about, making sure that these things are in, the ones that have already been done, are fully recorded in the tax rolls of that property. I know that Rob was just actually working on my little stupid thing I have. Is that part of this, or is this a different thing?
No, that will all be part of the
Of this
database.
database,
that
okay.
The intern work on.
Can I just add one other suggestion for this database to add for your intern to do?
Yes, you
Um,
may.
That he have some maps.
Yep.
That we have some maps included on this, just so we all, because I think it's always one thing to say what the, sort of by the westerly line of Waverly, et cetera. I think a map, and usually the maps have been provided at town meeting. But I think that would,
So do you mean the GIS map, or do you mean the recorded plan?
well,
Well,
definitely record if we have it, but I also know that not all takings that have been authorized by town meeting have even gone to a plan. So
Correct.
that can be a fun project for the intern.
I definitely like a GIS as well. So some of these paper streets could be in the middle of the woods and you're not sure which road's which or what, or even if there's a path to the beach.
Right, and then the other part that I envision being within the database is grouping the takings together. So far, it looks like all of the conveyances or dispositions have gone in piecemeal. So exactly the question that came up about parcels A and B on Sandwich Street, the neighbor, the abutter hasn't come forward. Those parcels then are still hanging out there and haven't actually been disposed of, that perhaps we do these in a group, so that we don't lose track of them. And so that's the other thing, is when they go in the database, then they're somehow grouped as that.
Do we
Taking.
currently use Sandwich as an example? Did we as a town, or as the lawyers that were Arthur working on one side of the street, did anybody go across the street and ask them and say, hey, we're in the process of doing this? Do you want in on this? Because we want to do this all at one time so that it's done. I mean, is anybody, were they planning, or us or them ever go do that?
I'll chime in I'll speak for Arthur for just a minute. In my experience lately, the land court will ask, they don't care if you group them. In other words, they're going to say, hey, everybody has to do their own petition. We don't care if it's at the same time, but you're going to need to, usually it makes sense to do sort of economies of scale, make everybody happen at once. And I would say for unregistered land, absolutely that's the way to do it. For registered land, I'm not sure it makes as much of a difference because the court still wants everything to be filed separately. Arthur, has that been your?
Yeah, let me
experience?
let me explain, first of all, exactly what we did on the Sandwich Road situation and how that's working with the land court at the present time. Specifically, when I filed when I was in the process of filing the plan for the riders with the land court, I spoke with John Vitale, who is now the deputy surveyor at the land court, title that he got a year or so ago, but has been there for a long time and is a very good guy to work with, as a matter of fact. And John said that if we filed the subdivision plan of our lot together with and showing the land taken by the town, the line of which has got to be adjudicated by the land court as a separate lot, not designating it with a land court lot number, but with the designation parcel D that was shown on the taking plan, that the court would issue a certificate of title in the name of the town for the parcel in question, which enables it to be conveyed through the yard sale process. And specifically what we did, we showed the lot that way. We filed the plan. We then had to bring the S case, the petition that's brought in land court in order to adjudicate the line of the street. And in connection with that, we had to go through the whole usual process. There was a land court examiner appointed to review it, filed a report, was assigned to somebody else up at the court. We pressed a little bit on it. And it helped that we were able to point out to the examiner to whom it had been assigned that Mrs. Ryder was 86 years old and needed to get her estate planning in order. The result of that was that it did go through in a reasonable period of time, and we were able to get the certificate of title issued to the town. Now, in this one, we had the further issue that the Ryder lot had become two lots by virtue of the earlier plan. And one of the lots was to go to Brian and the other to Kevin. So we needed to subdivide the town's lot. And I suggested to Vicky that we file the petition, the plan and S petition in the, no S petition because the lot had already been created, that we file the plan and go through the pre-filing review and so on and so forth with the land court in the name of the town, with the permission of the town, and that the plan, we'd be able to marshal the plan through the land court, which we did. And then we got us up to this point. Now, that leads me into the point that a great deal of the work involved in this situation and a great deal of the problem is the burden that is placed upon the town, specifically on town council, in dealing with this situation, because and frankly, Vicky has an awful lot of things on her plate, not related to yard sales or other issues like this. And if it is left up to the attorney for the property owner to handle the thing through the land court, obviously with copies being given all the way through to Vicky and now to Tracy, so that they know what's going on, that a great deal of work can be done that way, and the logjam that has existed up at the land court can be broken down, at least to some extent. Again, it worked very well on the Ryder case, and I think that, and you know, all of these situations are frankly much more important to the property owner than they are to the town. Town obviously wants to pursue the program, and it gets property back on the tax rolls, and the town derives a little money from it. But it's of great importance to the property owners. Once they become aware of the ability to do the yard sale, they really become invested in the process and want to get it done, and are always perplexed by why it seems to take so long. And as much of that stuff as can be put on the applicant and the counsel for the applicant, the better. So I would strongly recommend that, to the greatest extent possible, wherever the responsibility for carrying things forward can be placed upon the applicant. That's exactly where it should lie. I'm not looking for business. I've got a lot of stuff here that I've got to deal with. I've got a whole banker's box full of files that I'm about to sit down and one by one give Tracy a list of exactly what needs to be done to
Lucky you.
clean them up, starting with the low-hanging fruit first. But that's my feeling as to how this whole situation can be expedited. I know that as with the Ryder case, Vicky was very happy to have as much as possible of the work, taken care of by us, and I think that would be a good way to proceed.
So,
Agreed.
so Arthur, could I ask you, did Vicky have to be on the petition with you, or did you file
No,
the petition?
No, she and Erica just authorized me to file on behalf of the town.
That's great.
So.
Go ahead.
Can I ask you a question, Mr. Chairman, through?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm asking Arthur the question for the town, kind of, but I guess I'm not. Didn't we have wasn't most of the stuff being taken care of by the property owner? I'm talking about the cost. I'm not talking about the legwork part. So like how
Yeah.
Rob comes up with the $3 and something cents, for example, sounds like we need to figure out a way to come up with a price. You know where I'm going, so go ahead. You already have the answer.
No, I mean, yes and no, because we've said this to Vicky on multiple times. So look, if you are spending more than $1,200 worth of your time,
Yeah,
charge more than $1,200 worth of your time.
Yeah.
No,
But-
nobody's gonna balk at, $2,000 legal fee.
so
Do
the
it.
town lawyer versus the private property owner, the private property owner is already getting billed. So that sort of covers
I'm-
that, but if certain amount of time is used by town council
They,
and I mean, is a sort of a value to this. It doesn't, it's
Well,
never gonna
they
be
need,
perfect.
they
but
need
there
to
should be
bill. It's
something.
a very simple answer, but
I've
the town needs
actually
to
looked
bill.
billing records,
I know.
And
But-
they won't, town will not give them to me as a committee member of what the lawyers are billing back per parcel. I have the records from 12, and we spent 50,000 for a parcel down on the water that we just finally approved 2 years ago, and that was in 12, so imagine how much that was.
He's like Charles Street or something.
No, it was right on Holbert Avenue, and it started in 12, and it was, I got the numbers, but.
I just think that some of it's housekeeping, some of it's to prevent subdivision. Roads can be opened up without, by any abutter. There's all sorts of stuff that can happen. So there's a lot of reasons for this other than what Arthur said.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We just had one at Sideline that's a public benefit. So, and the ghost streets, they're already paying taxes on the ghost streets. The regular streets are not.
Yeah.
I understand that because there was one next to me, I never even understood it until a couple of years ago. So, believe it or not, but, that's a higher pay grade than the intern to figure this stuff out, obviously, but.
We've had this discussion before, and I think the general consensus is the applicants will pay,
Yeah,
sort of,
they will.
if you build it, they will come. If you
Well-
bill it, they will pay it. So,
Yeah.
tell us how much you're,
Well,
feel
the
free to.
registered land part is the biggest issue, obviously.
If
Yeah.
the attorneys can do the petitions for the registered land.
Yeah.
Then that is, it's actually really a big deal. Like,
Huge
that would be
savings.
great.
Yeah,
And
Huge.
then for the unregistered parcels, there is some really old ones that were part of the procurement program that got stuck in land court, that some of them, it was just a circumstance, like terrible circumstances, people died or whatever. And those really do have to be put on the priority list. Those people actually put deposits down. Arthur, I would imagine you have at least a few of those.
Yeah, I got a bunch kicking around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we already know of a few, and so we need to absorb those and deal with those first. It's really unfair. I mean, they go back to like 2005.
Yeah.
And then you jump to the ones that are more like in between, starting in 2010.
Yeah.
That either are land court or, you know, just like some of these other ones didn't get done in a group. And so when they got done piecemeal, they kind of were hanging out there and just never got done, or that abutter came in later. And
Or the homeowner sold their house and.
Exactly.
It's like, yeah, I don't care.
there's a variety of reasons, but the town is also focused on the ones where it has a public purpose. So an easement, one big beach, erosion control, those ones are also going to be a higher priority
Yeah.
than some of the others. So, but we need to create this criteria, and I'm hoping that you can help me with it.
So then the follow-up question that I have is, in an ideal world, and we're not gonna hold you to any of this, obviously.
Yeah.
How long when do you think we'd get a database or a schedule? Or you wanna wait
So
until after the summer?
intern Is coming, July 18th, I
Okay.
believe, and he is working for 5 to 6 weeks. So that is the plan,
Cool.
that at the end of that 5 to 6 weeks, we at least have some working document and database that we can unveil.
How much does Nathan Ford have to do with any of this? Nothing right now?
Nothing right now. I
Okay.
mean, he may become involved, but I think the idea is that we kind of can gauge a timeline as well.
Yeah.
As it stands right now, town council and I have a goal of putting at least 2 on every select board agenda at the end of each month. So real estate matters can only go on the last select board meeting of the month.
Yeah.
But
With due respect, at the rate of 2 a month,
I know,
how many centuries is it gonna take to finish it?
They're also meeting on Mondays now, too.
not for real
That's,
estate matters.
No, I know, but I mean,
That's the way the agenda works. But I will tell you this, Arthur, if I can begin to group them,
You get a bunch of. them.
and
show a backlog.
and I can get all the homeowners on board up front and do them, then those would go as a group on the meeting. We would actually get through this a lot faster.
Yep.
So.
Once again, though, I think that there's no question that town council should be paid, the town should be paid, however it's handled, for all the work that is done. At the same time, Vicky is only one woman, and there's nobody else at KP Law who's working on this. And she has an awful lot else on her plate, and I know she doesn't mind a bit having any of this work done by anybody else, as long as she's able to follow it and knows what's going on. So I would strongly recommend that, to the greatest extent possible, that the responsibility be taken off her plate and put on that of the lawyers, who are the ones that get yelled at by their clients because nothing's proceeding with the case.
We need a path forward that works, is all you're really asking for. We got a lot of paths, but.
Right, and
it's
there's
like
also,
obvious.
and then the guidelines are a separate thing, the sort of leading up to town meeting, submitting, you know, if it's gonna be a citizen petition, or if it's an article that the town puts forward. And then the process through that, we've had, some people submit a taking plan with no town meeting. Not a lot, but a few who just don't understand that's not the process. And then I've had to
Yeah.
tell them, do you have town meeting?
So,
So I think, you know, we definitely have to get a solid system going forward, and I'm all about that. And I think that if we could create that, then it will sort of march along and hopefully get better, and we can actually provide homeowners with, I'd like to be able to provide them a realistic timeline rather than this, you know, having to like say a town council just can't get to it. Which is part of the reality.
Okay. Yes, Lee.
So I've got probably an unanswerable question. What do we do with potential takings? In other words, some inventory of paper streets that at the moment are not in play, but could be.
I guess that's a do you mind if I?
Go.
I guess that's a question of who would want to bring it forward. I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of paper streets out there. I'm not sure we have an accurate inventory of them. Maybe again, maybe if the intern is bored, you can find something else.
I have another project. for him
Perfect.
That Lee will be
Uh,
very happy about.
But I mean, from there, I guess it really depends on who is bringing them forward. I mean, without putting words in planning's mouth. I mean, I think unless there is truly sort of a greater public good,
Yeah.
I don't think the planning board's doing any of these takings anymore. So except for
The question is based on earlier statements that planning is trying to clean up the paper street situation on Nantucket.
That's a general statement, but
Ye-
yeah, I would say that's been the case since since Step Beach situation, which was not a paper street, but it was the same situation.
I mean, again, my guess is that what we're looking at is sort of twofold in as much as we are going to compile a list of what's been taken, or excuse me, what's been authorized to be taken. And then we can sort of put those into groups of saying that, this has been
Sure.
taken, this.
And that's the highest
And
priority.
that's the highest priority. And then I suppose sort of, a bigger picture question is, okay, where are all the, where are the balance of the paper streets out here? And does anyone want to do anything with them, or B, just sort of leave them as is? And that's
I mean,
for somebody else to figure
I will
out.
say a lot was resolved within the various takings in the Lovers Lane Boulevard
Hmm,
area where that particular area was full of these types of ghost streets or whatever. And this road project that's up and coming we've been able to resolve a lot of that.
It's never gonna end.
No,
Well,
but
I
it's
would
pretty
say that,
huge,
but
it's pretty huge, so I think as things move along, it comes up and there's other areas that are suffering this severe erosion where it's come up in those
Right.
areas.
Yeah.
So it kind of does come up in various.
So here's a piece of platitudinous advice. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the merely good.
Yeah.
You're working with an intern. At the end of the summer, it may not be what you want, but it would be a step forward.
Exactly,
I
exactly.
mean, there's.
I think that property owners in general are very much aware of the yard sale program. And I think that, it takes care of itself. They come forward with the, with the proposal to do it. If we're worried about the backlog of dealing with these things, I don't think we really need to have the town go out looking for situations to add to the pile. Furthermore, you have the point that the whole idea of these is to add it to the adjacent property. And if the adjacent property owner doesn't want it, which happens from time to time, then what's the point?
Right. And I have one other, one other issue that's come up that is, I think, probably pretty recent. I have homeowners who haven't been waiting actually within the program all that long, asking me for licenses to use the property
Oh.
while they wait for their parcel to be
Oh.
conveyed to them. And I am not in favor of that.
I would say it
Tough-
depends.
yeah,
There's probably places that they've already been using in sort of a, I don't wanna say traditional or just existing conditions, but that would be a issue to just make that an official use. That would be, I could see that being a huge problem.
It's also a lot of work.
Yeah, that would be
I mean,
unnecessary.
if it's needed
I mean,
for erosion purposes.
Parking a vehicle or something, that's one thing, but what does that even mean, licensing? How would you even figure out what the value is? Or what, you know what I'm saying?
Or even
That
release
kind
it,
of
or even release the liability.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
It's a
I just think
challenge,
that- I mean, I can sense that there's sort of a reset going on here, and I'm sort of coming in late, but I do have an understanding of a lot of stuff, but I
Yep.
don't know everything. But one of the things that I don't wanna see, first of all, I don't wanna see this die, because this is really important. This has helped a lot of people, and it's helped. I mean, 14 Poplar Street's the best one in my opinion, but you have the other ones, and the whole this guy's whole backyard was a road. It's kind of ridiculous, you know what I mean? What that was like, he showed me a picture of.
Well, if you really
Whole
look at
plan.
the Engelhard
It's
property,
insane.
it's the same thing. He had what, how many streets did I list, Arthur?
It's
6 streets?
insanity. So, but this is stuff that is, a trust issue, not an issue, a trust potential issue. And keeping it more simplified as to what the benefits are. Sometimes there's benefits to the homeowner a little more than the town or vice, it depends on what the situation is.
Yeah.
But that, the perfect situation, what we just did for the Lovers Lane, I mean, that's a good one.
Yeah.
And there's probably gonna be more of that, okay? But I would like to discuss down in another time, whenever we have the opportunity, is to talk about, and this is where it gets into the stuff that Andrew's worked on for years and we've discussed for years. And now that we're digging up all these streets and we're putting them back the wrong way, that's been wrong for over 100 years. I was talking with a homeowner at the, on Gardner Street the other day, well, it's really Liberty, but it's Guard, people
Mhm.
don't know the little sliver of Liberty. How the telephone poles and things are in the middle of the sidewalk and cannot get moved without easements, and
Like an act of God.
it's insanity.
Yeah.
Moving a pole in this island is like land court or worse, okay? And they just did it up in North Conway, the old part. Every pole got moved out of the sidewalks up there. And it's beautiful. Now people can actually walk on the sidewalk at night.
Novel concept.
And we have so much trouble with that, and you're never gonna see the wires going underground. It's never gonna happen. That is just talk. It's zillions of dollars. It's not gonna happen. I mean, it may happen here and there, but it's not gonna happen like all of a sudden it's gonna happen. We need to work on that, and I don't know if that's this committee. I don't know if that's
Well, the
something
board
that needs to come out of the strategic plan.
When
But-
when they came in for the sewer project, the Board of Selectmen said one of the things we need to do is we need to get the easements to move the poles.
Just have to
and-
move is 2-3 feet in some cases. It's
Yeah,
not
but
it's
the selectmen
1799 road, it's a
selectmen
problem.
issued that directive of let's move forward to get. And so that was given by
Yeah.
the Board of
So
Selectmen,
yeah.
but then nobody followed up
It's
on it.
just so
nobody's
much
done it.
work, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And your position is like one person.
Already that are very
It-
similar.
it's bad. And so you gotta
Mostly
pick,
Trees.
you have to pick where these, I mean, it started with the truck route where I started noticing all this stuff and how that stuff got done and how hot it was. And the one in front of the Legion, there's a pole right there at the corner of the building. It's literally in the middle of the sidewalk and it only has to move like 2 feet. It's unbelievable.
Well-
So like that kind of stuff is something I think we should try to reinvigorate some way.
I think we should also put it on the electric company or the telephone company because most
Oh,
of the
that's-
poles that are in the sidewalk are already rebraced right now with the metal. And they have to replace that pole in
So-
the future, so
Yeah.
before you go to replace the pole,
Let's
you
get the
better have
easement.
plans to move it and.
But
if
they
it
won't do it if
breaks-
it's not legal. They
Now,
won't move it.
just a quick observation, because you're absolutely right. The town's new long-range transportation plan has got something like 20 projects in an appendix. All of which are good projects. The one project that we in the Nantucket Town Area Plan Work Group have identified as being the #1 priority is not in the plan, because it's Gardner Street.
Well, I got the answer to Gardner, other than moving the pole, you gotta lower the curb. That's all they need to do. You don't need, you're never gonna widen it. It just
Just
needs to be
Raise
lowered.
the tar.
As it turns out.
Well, raise the
as it
tar.
turns out, now, physically, that's a good plan. Legally, it's not. Because Massachusetts code does not permit parking or driving on the sidewalk. Okay, chief,
You're gonna have to,
chief,
you're
chief.
gonna have to write that out of your paper. street in your head.
Yeah, all right.
Chief Pittman, told us this is one
That's the way it works.
regulation I've chosen not to enforce.
All right,
Okay, but-
we're moving a
Moving on.
little off topic,
Yeah.
but still within the realm. I agree. All right,
For 100 years.
anything else on the database?
On the database for the backlog.
Database backlog, no?
No.
Okay, good luck. Keep us updated.
I will.
Like, all right, moving on. Review
I'm gonna
react.
bow out, guys.
Okay.
Thank you, Arthur.
And no charge for my recommendations. They're all
Yeah,
pro
thank-
bono.
No,
we'll keep
send
that-
me-
we'll keep
send
that in
me a
mind.
list, Arthur. That's your trade.
Review react potential role in Nantucket Housing Trust RFP submissions with respect to criteria, development, and restrictions. What is this?
You mean Affordable Housing Trust?
Yes.
Okay.
So Affordable Housing Trust is really motoring in trying to create the affordable housing, acquire properties. They've got a number of RFPs going out to bid to developers for affordable housing in a various like amount of scope. Based on AMI for
They're going up on that,
yeah, so
which is good.
So I don't know how much, I mean, I'm new to all of this as well, but where they obtain their funds, so if they receive grant money from a certain agency, then that requires them to be at a certain AMI. They also are really working hard to reach safe harbor, so we don't have any more 40Bs. And they are trying to maintain that criteria. So when they put out these RFPs, depending on how they acquired that lot, they have different criteria of AMI. And it becomes pretty complicated, to be honest. And so they have several going out, and I had asked Christy Ferrantella if she could have a discussion with me if there's any value that REAC could bring to moving it along and helping them with the process. Because they have yet to release some of them because it's hard.
So, what?
So they have,
Yeah.
I think they have 5 different ones that are,
You talk about RFPs,
yep,
Okay, well,
but that's on existing property.
let's be.
Yeah, exactly,
RFP stands
existing
for
property.
request for proposal,
right.
but a proposal from whom about what? That's,
So when they release it, it's for a developer to, I think, like, the town would lease the land, or in some different ones have different criteria.
So this would be a review of, have our committee potentially review the RFPs that the Affordable Housing Trust Fund would issue for various projects, and that we would review the
And make
RFP before it
suggesting,
goes,
yeah.
out.
And
each-
potentially make suggestions if you had any.
each RFP individually, or as it says here, simply, the criteria for writing an RFP.
No, the templates are, there's certain templates for them, so it's not so much that, it's then, you know, the actual criteria that goes into it. So I'm not sure what Christie has in mind, what the board has in
It
mind.
doesn't make sense.
Right, I
It's-
just wanted to kind of get it on your radar, but like, so they have like zoning that comes up, you know, and all different things that come up within the discussion of the RFP.
I mean, Affordable Housing Trust, people that are on it, they're pretty diverse. They know what's going on. And so some of that kind of stuff comes up, somebody's gonna have an answer. I think we need to hear from her what she's talking about, because this seems a little out of the scope of this committee.
Like you're trying to get us to look at highest and best use. That's what, reading between the lines.
It has
That's
not,
what
I mean,
feels-
I mean, when-
Wondering if you
But I don't
feel
know.
that you can add a value to it.
I mean, this committee would be for a piece of property that has a lot of problems around it, for example.
Let's give an example of one they've already put out
Yeah,
that didn't follow through, which is Orange Street.
Orange Street, in my opinion,
What, corner of Dave's?
is a whole nother story. I think they should sell it, because it's commercial. It's kind of an odd place. The original plan there got kiboshed by the HDC, but it was that's
I
CMI.
don't dis- I
It's kind of
I
a,
don't disagree.
it's kind of an unusual place to, I know what they wanted to do there, they wanna have rentals, and I'm totally in favor of that. Usually above commercial, though. Yep, something's gotta be below it, and that's the basic trend in Mid-Island in the last, since West Creek Road got kinda changed, pretty much. Those
Okay.
places next to Kitty's.
Well, I'm gonna have a meeting with Christie. We're gonna
Yeah.
talk about it. We'll see if we can narrow down what the deal is.
I think the sense, not to speak for everyone, but I don't think we're opposed to it, but we have no real idea, no real
So
idea.
I
what
was
to-
looking at, on the website, the original, mission for REACT, and that was one of the things that was listed on it, so,
Hmm.
and I'm new to the job, so I, to be honest, don't know, really, I just, to the extent.
Sounds like
you
town
could add
land
it on
issue
to-
stuff.
Or Christie
Where-
thinks you could, I wanted to bring it up, other than that, is there anything else?
Okay, so I'll give you an example. I gotta plug in, like I'm not thinking about stuff. Now I just thought of something. For example, when this all started with Housing Nantucket, the different entities. So Housing Nantucket has some places that are high end. Today, they might not have been high end 20 years ago, but they are now. Okay, you have to admit this stuff. And I've always said, why don't we trade this for somewhere else? Like, for example, I'm not trying to be just
But you're
throw.
talking about housing versus
I know, but it's all in the same bucket. It really is. Well, okay, but there is a lot of connectivity there. So if you have a piece of land that you wanna put 3 units on, but it's in 2-acre zoning out by the airport, that's sort of high-endish type property. Same with the ones they have on the right, on the west side of Tom Nevis, they have quite a few.
Like on White Street. where the-
Well, the White Street one, I was always questioning, because it's not even in the sewer district. I'm like, what are we doing here? This should be the owners didn't want it to be sold on the market, and I get that. And there's people hanging on to, by a fingernail to their legacy, but that's a trophy lot eventually. I mean, it's just, this should be like the stuff that just is getting done on Parker Lane, for example, or places that are Mid-Island that, really,
That's
that,
all affordable housing Nantucket.
I understand that,
But
but
that is, they're acting as a developer.
I know they are, I know, but when you talk about housing, it's all, kind of similar depending on
I
what.
know, but what Housing Trust is doing is
Yeah.
not the same, that's not the
Okay.
same, so.
All right,
If they put out an RFP and Housing Nantucket bids on it.
Yeah.
That's something different.
I just think of location and taxes, where things should be and where they shouldn't be. And we're extending sewer a lot, which is good, but there's places that are, big, huge lots on septic and well water that, in my opinion, is not really the right thing. Or maybe part of it could be housing, so there's a lot of different things. I mean, so we need to hear what she's got to say, in my opinion,
So if you don't mind, Tracy, I'm going to philosophize just a little bit. At one time, Nantucket had a fairly mixed use between commercial and residential, because nobody owned a car and very few people owned a horse. So if you went down Orange Street, you passed Riders, you passed the little market at about 65 or so. Sheila Fee's flock was the bakery. Up the way was Rabimbus's, and that's what I can remember. Apparently there were more. There's been a notion that residential should not be commercial. And we played for many hours with that earlier this week, and it's not resolved. But what triggered all this was the Dave Street, Orange Street. I think a vital community mixes commercial and residential.
that's,
And
Yep.
barriers to that may leave the residential areas sterile. And I commend Jane Jacobs, who, by the way, wrote her book about the future of American cities. That wasn't the title, because she lived in Greenwich Village and the streets were alive at night when people lived upstairs. So just something to think about. As I said, philosophy, not necessarily good criteria.
Okay. All right,
Okay,
I don't know if there's anything else.
I was gonna say, so now we're at any other business? Anybody have anything else to say?
Nope.
I think I already said it.
Go Bob, all right, Tracy.
Is there, as a group, anything you wish to be working on? Is there something else you can think of that would be within my parameter that you would want?
At least she's
To
asking.
make it more interesting.
We have a long-term purpose, and that's put ourselves out of business, abandon the
Keep trying.
community.
Oh, no, we don't want to abandon this. I think we need to be branching into other things like we've just talked about. Like, I mean, there's so many nuance 200-year-old problems that I think need to have this type of simple conversation instead of it being a larger scale issue, like the flower pots on South Beach Street. That they own up to the pavement. No one knows why those big massive flower pots are right there. Like, there's a lot of stuff that can get fixed. Look what happened in front of Toby's with, you know, this is less parking space, hello. Like, there's so many things. I could run through a million of them. And I look at this committee as a little bit like traffic safety, but with a focus on, you know, the real estate, but it's similar. And I think that it should continue, and I think it should not just expand, but branch a little bit. Because there's so many different things. Like, we run into this at planning with second curb cut stuff, where you have, I'll give you an example of one that's interesting. Parking the long way within the layout of the road. Yep. All right, it's a tradition in Wisconsin, it's all over the place. And it came up in Codfish Park 2 years ago. Very seldom do I go against staff, and they were against something that there's 4 of. Before this one house, there's like 4 of them just like it, on a street that no one drives on. I'm like, we need to continue this, we all take a view of this, they're all like this. And everyone agreed, once they saw it, they didn't see it, they didn't know. And so, I don't know, I'm just talking just a general point about being involved in some of these things. I think it's similar to traffic safety.
I can see that.
Because of the legal stuff, not what work stuff, but like there's little legal things that fit into this with your job. Anyway.
Yep.
I always say we're not Arizona. Everything's perfect in Arizona, not here, you know.
Hey, my brother, I've been to Arizona, it ain't so.
Well, you know what I mean. Like every curb, every layout, I bet they don't have any 1799 road layouts in Arizona. At least not in Phoenix.
It's a different matter because it's former federal land.
Well, there you go.
All right, so
Thank you.
with that in mind,
Motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn. We got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Awesome. Let's do a roll call vote one last time. Nat Lowell,
Aye.
Tom Barata,
Aye.
Lisa Saperstein.
Aye, but I'll make a comment after you vote.
Is it Robert's Rules of Order that we get to the end of the agenda and we are,
Oh,
Okay,
regardless, John Burchett sure votes aye. We're adjourned one way or the other.
John, I fold to Nantucket tradition.
All right, thank you all very much.